Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes.
And me, Simon Mann.
We've had one day of the Oval Test and already this series is turning into the survival of the fittest, with Chris Woakes now going down with what looked like quite a nasty injury, right actually where we're standing on the boundary edge here, diving over the boundary to try and save a four near the end of the day's play, and it looks like he might have dislocated a shoulder, and that could mean a long time out for Chris Woakes, and also of course it means he can't bowl in the rest of this match as well, with India 204 for 6. The Betfair odds at the start of the day were saying, when England won the toss and put India in, 36% an England win and about the same for India, so it was sort of evens when the game started. As the game progressed, as India managed to get back from 150 for 6 to 204 for 6, it's now gone, actually interestingly, to still England favourites, 48%, India only 31%. I find that quite strange, personally, because I honestly think, green pitch out there, overcast conditions, damp conditions, I thought, honestly, that was 160 all-out wicket.
Yeah, okay, so it might be 160 all-out pitch, say. I mean, you think of Jimmy Anderson bowling on that pitch, but he's not. Yeah. But it's 200 for 6, which is still, you'd think, quite a good position for England to be in. So why do you not think that, okay, it could have been much better for England? It's not. But they're still 6 down for 200. So why don't you think that gives England a significant advantage? What do you think will happen with this pitch? I think that's the question.
Well, I think it's not a particularly easy pitch to bat on. I thought England bowled poorly. I thought Gus Atkinson bowled well, especially as he hasn't played any cricket. I thought he bowled excellently. But the rest, I mean, Chris Woakes was okay, but Josh Tongue and Jamie Overton were wayward. It was aerosol a lot of the time, aerosol bowling, spraying it everywhere. I thought the ball did loads. I mean, in the first 23 overs of the innings, only 14 of the 140 deliveries would have hit the stumps. Now, you're not necessarily looking to bowl half volleys and hit the stumps every ball, but it looked like one of those sort of spray paint games, the beehive, the ball map, the pitch map of their deliveries. England was slipping a little bit out there. I know that's tough, we can talk about that. The conditions weren't easy for bowlers, but there was a lot in that pitch, and England didn't bowl very well. They didn't utilise it. I thought that pitch did more than when Stuart Broad bowled Australia out for 60 at Trent Bridge.
Yeah, so I think the general conclusion would be that probably England didn't make the most of it. They didn't bowl with a great deal of discipline. I mean, they've got a strange attack, haven't they, really, for this Test match? But it's still 200 for 6. So my question to you then is, do you think this pitch will flatten out, get a bit easier? Because often you come to the Oval on the first day and it is quite green, conditions like that. Perhaps not quite as damp as this, because there had been some rain this morning. It's been a bit wetter in London recently. There has been all summer. But so is the pitch going to ease off? It often does. If that's the case, then you think, well, England could probably live with 200 for 6, even though it should be, you feel it should be 160 all out, or a team could get bowled out for 160 on that surface.
Well, you spoke to Gus Atkinson after play, and he said that he thought the pitch was dinting a bit, that little dents were forming on the pitch, which means that probably as the game wears on, it'll get a little bit more uneven. As the ball hits the down slope, it'll keep low. If it hits the up slope, it'll climb a bit. But, I mean, there's a little bit of uneven bounce out there. I think, to answer your question, I think that it will depend on the weather conditions. I think if it gets sunny, it'll probably flatten out. But if it stays overcast for a couple of days and there's a bit of rain around, it'll carry on doing quite a bit. Yeah,
I mean, that thing about, you said dinting, we should just explain that for those people who don't know what we're talking about. Often if the pitch just starts a little bit damp, the ball just takes tiny little divots out of the pitch. You can kind of like flatten it out with the heavy roller, but you just get these little indentations in the pitch, and as
like pockmarking, isn't it?
Yeah, and that if you land on it, it can create that uneven bounce.
It's almost like a sort of dimple on a golf ball, isn't it? A bigger version, really. And just little tiny indentations which cause, if the ball pitches on one edge or the other edge of that indentation, it can misbehave.
Yeah. So, and if that does happen, it can get actually quite difficult to bat later in the game. But I mean, thank goodness we've got a slightly different game in this series. After in a way, 4 quite similar pitches, quite dry. Okay, Headingley had a bit more bounce in it. The last 3 pitches have been dry, quite hard work for the bowlers. albeit Lords, it got tough to bat on as the game went on. But it just feels a different sort of game, doesn't it? The whole atmosphere is completely different. The weather, the pitch. We've seen some green here rather than sort of brown as we've seen all summer.
Well, listen, almost every ball there was something happening, wasn't there? Whereas actually in the previous matches we've tended to find a bit slow burny those tests, haven't they? With sort of 2 or 3 fairly slow days in terms of wickets falling, and then it all builds to a crescendo towards the end of the match. Whereas this one looks like an event almost every ball.
Yeah. So do you therefore think that 200 for 6 actually is odds in favour of India? You think they've had actually a pretty good day because they battle hard? And
I do. I think that if they end up getting 275, say, I think that's about 50 to 80 more than they should get. I think it's a 180, 190
Yeah, but my point is, can England live with that? Because...
Well, yes, I mean, they can, because obviously they're aggressive batters. They've got a long batting order. We don't know what Chris Woakes' role is going to be, if he's going to be able to bat. But
well, if he's got a serious shoulder injury, he's probably not going to be able to bat. Is he? Except in an absolute emergency.
Yeah, but I mean, they've obviously still got Damien Smith coming in at 7, who's England's leading run scorer after Joe Root in this series. So they've got lots of batters who know these conditions and probably be quite aggressive. There's no Bumrah in the Indian attack as well, so I can quite see England getting up to India, but I thought England should have taken more of an advantage today than they did.
Yeah. What about the England attack, Yoz? I mean, it's kind of like it feels like a strange attack for a decisive Test match of the series, doesn't it? You've got Gus Atkinson coming back to cricket. Look, he had a really good year, didn't he, last year, and took that a little bit into the winter as well, continuing his form. Then he picked up the hamstring injury. He hasn't bowled very much. He did play in a second team game. Okay, it's not the same, but he did bowl quite a lot of overs in that second team game. Played a club match. It's not really, great preparation for a Test match, but he actually bowled well today, playing on his home ground. You've got Josh Tongue, who's kind of been in and then out, not bowling a great deal. He's had his injury issues as well, in the past. So there's him and Jamie Overton, who's I think taken 2 first-class wickets this season, and Chris Woakes, who's bowled, I think you were saying, he's bowled more overs in this series than he's bowled in any series in his life.
Over 160.
And then the spinner is, well, we saw a couple of overs from Jacob Bethel at the end. There's a bit of Joe Root as well. I mean, it's an odd.
It's what you call a makeshift attack, isn't it? Really,
it is, and we've got here because Bryden Carse probably the it's taken a lot out of him, the series, isn't it? I don't know whether he's unfit or just absolutely shattered. Jofra Archer, in a way they've done well to resist playing him, haven't they? Because there's a temptation to say, oh, go on, let's go again to the Jofra Archer well. But you've got to manage him back into the summer. No Ben Stokes, who's been England's best bowler, so their leading wicket taker is out of the series, and he's what it must be like for him sitting up in that dressing room just watching on all day, frustrated that he can't take part. He's led England to this point where they might win the series. So it really is a kind of odd attack. Are there players here that could have played in this Test match? Look, if you knew you were going to win the toss today, you might have wanted Sam Cook in your side, wouldn't you? You might have wanted Potts in your side, say. But
Jofra Archer went and looked at the pitch before play and sort of went,
I wouldn't mind bowling on
this after the ones he has bowled on before.
I'm sure Jasprit Bumrah as well thought the same thing, and it's such an odd situation that they find themselves in, and this is our Betfair exchange, isn't it? Really, that look. The schedule is nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, that you come off the back of Old Trafford. I suppose we've had an odd situation in that this summer's been very dry. It's been very competitive. The games have gone the distance, and that's not happened in previous summers.
Every game has gone to the last.
Every session,
exactly.
Last session on the 5th day, so it's taken a heck of a lot out of the players. Suddenly, 3-day turnaround, and you're back at you. And what you've got is lots of key players missing. Well, they might have got injured anyway. I mean, Ben Stokes, that was it. But he got injured probably because he was just putting in so much over a concerted period of time.
So, Test cricket is supposed to be a test of a nation's cricketing strength. That's why it was called Test cricket quite all that time ago in the 1880s. And obviously England now and India's teams are not their best teams because they haven't been able to pick certain players through injuries and so on. So it is a sort of survival of the fittest.
Isn't that just part and parcel of it, though? I mean,
it shouldn't be. You know, if you're one of the punters here who's paying, I don't know, 150 quid and at Lord's 175 quid, you have a right to expect the best players to be on the field. You still get good entertainment, but you do have a right to hope that the best players are out there.
But they're not always going to be out there because injuries are part of the game. And actually, part of a nation's strength as a test playing country is its depth as well. It's not just about your first 11. It's about having.
But that then makes it tough for a lot of countries to continue to participate. You know, New Zealand, for instance, a population of 4 million. How do they have the depth that England or Australia or India have? How do?
Well, they don't play 5-match series, do they? I mean,
and that's understandable, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, Ben Stokes in the press conference yesterday, when asked about the time between games and, is it right? Do they compress these test series into too short a span? And he said, well, I think they should even out the gap between games to more, like instead of 3 days between some test matches and 9 or 8 and 9 between others, why not do 5 days between each game? And then you have a proper time for recovery. Because it's not only about injury, it's also about players just fatigued, isn't it? And obviously injuries are more liable to happen.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously today, Chris Woakes, that's a freak injury, falling over the boundary.
So is Richard Pant. That's a freak injury
as
well, isn't it?
But Stokes is not a freak injury. That's, just wear and tear on his body and not having enough time to recover.
And Bumrah as well.
Yeah, and Archer, really.
Yeah, it's about those two. It's about managing back from injury, isn't it? And
Carse as well.
Yeah, I mean, on the Jasprit Bumrah, people say, "Oh, well, it's a decisive Test match. They should try to sort of encourage him to play and all that sort of thing." I mean, I don't think that you can do that with a player's career. I mean, they set that plan, 3 Test matches, kind of easing him back in. You've got to respect a player's body. So I can understand that why Bumrah's not playing. I can understand why Carter's not played in this Test match. I can totally understand why Archer's not played in this Test match. But if it was, I mean, look. If there were a 5-day gap, would Archer have played? Would Bumrah have played?
Possibly, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. And I suppose it does come down to this issue of, does it mean you have to start a Test match in England on a Wednesday, Thursday or Friday? Because if you could sort of evenly space out, you probably would have to start the game on different days of the week, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So, traditionally, when we were growing up, it was always Thursday start, wasn't it? Thursday was your Test match day.
But you have a proper week or even 2 weeks between games, and a visiting touring team will then play a county side in between Test matches, and county players, England players, will go back and play for their county. Well, obviously that's very demanding as well, but at least there was more time between the intensity of each Test match. I mean, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday starts, those have evolved and been set in stone partly because of corporate hospitality, which is sellable on a Thursday or a Friday, but not at the weekend or perhaps on a Monday. But I think we have to live with that in the future. There was plenty of money coming in from the broadcasters. In a way, the corporate hospitality income is less important than the broadcasters' income, and the broadcasters' income is only going to be sustained by top quality entertainment and by the best players being on the field. If it means you have to start on a Monday for one Test match, and then you have 5 days off and you start the next one on a Thursday or a Friday, so be it.
It may just be that this is just a unique summer, and our reaction here is a little bit knee-jerk because of the fact that everyone's sort of falling down like 9 pins. But it's a unique summer. It's been incredibly dry. The pitches have been flat. We've got 2 very competitive sides going hammer and tongs at each other.
You always sit on the fence.
Well, no, I'm just
you're the voice of reason.
Well, I'm just
really,
saying I'm just trying to sort of give some context. Really. It's just a unique summer. Yeah. No one probably could have envisaged this happening. I mean, look, if I said to you at the start of the summer, we're going to have the first 4 Test matches, they're all going to go to the last session, you'd have said no. The bet for odds on that would be pretty high, wouldn't they? So I don't. It's just the way it's panned out, but I think we've said it before. We said it during our Lord's podcast that 3 days between Test matches is not really enough. I think it's got to be minimum 4 and ideally 5. But we live in this modern world where everything is crammed in. Look, the 100 starts the day after this Test match finishes. I mean, that's another story, isn't it? But it's also generating hundreds of millions of pounds.
And the money is about to land in the county's accounts as well. A lot of the county treasurers are very happy. Well, look, we'll draw a veil over it, and we'll come back to this topic. But it's certainly a live one, and England and India are paying the penalty for the intensity of the series. So what about today's play? I mean, we should just reflect actually on the end of the last test, which seemed to cause quite a bit of a stir amongst our listeners and viewers. Our views at the end of that match when Jadeja and Washington Sundar decided to bat on to get their hundreds, and we were a little bit critical of that. We said that the players were sort of putting personal pride and personal milestones above sort of match and team interests. And we got a lot of flack for that, didn't we? Do you think we deserved it? Probably we did.
No, I don't care whether we did or not. I absolutely do not. I do not care. We do our podcast. We give our opinion without fear or favour. And people say, "Oh no, you're biased. You're biased." Well, I think both of us were very last summer when the Australians were over here, the summer before last, and Johnny Bairstow was stumped. We actually said in that instance, he was dozy. It was your job is to stay in your crease, and I couldn't get that worked up about what Australia did. Lots of people did. I couldn't get that worked up about it. Okay, so there we go. There's a without fear or favour opinion. I will say, stay in your ground. Never trust the opposition. They are there to do you down. So. There's an instance where we didn't go with England. We went against England. So there's an example of that. I just think if I'd have been batting the other day, I'd have been embarrassed to bat on to get me 100 because the game was over. The game was over.
I would have bowled a string of bouncers at you. I would have just bowled nothing that you could hit at all. Okay. Even though I was probably on my knees if I'd been out there for 5 sessions. I mean, the point is, you have to factor in that England had been out there for 5 sessions. Yeah. And well as India batted, and they did bat tremendously well. It was a fantastic rearguard action by all the Indian players.
We gave them massive credit for that as well.
But I thought it just was a bit worthless getting those last 20 runs. Okay, so it's 100 in the book, and no one will remember in 2 years' time that Jadeja and Washington Sundar's, in the case of Washington Sundar, it's his first Test 100. Fantastic. No one will remember the fact that he scored some of it off donkey drops from Harry Brook. No. Although actually Joe Root did still bowl properly. In fact, ultra competitor that he is, he was saying, "Well, I'm certainly not going to give him an easy Test 100." But I just thought it made a bit. It rather diluted what was a fantastic game, and just it ended in farce and just left a bad taste.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I think old pros would say, no, you got to come off in that situation, and if you don't come off, you can expect a chirp, definitely, and you can probably expect the sort of bowling that Harry Brook came up with as well, because they're not going to bowl properly, they're not going to knacker out their pace bowlers anymore. They're just going to, because England's goal there was just to get off the field, wasn't it? Yeah. Look, and I said this at the time actually, that people say, well, India's job was to wear England down some more. Well, if it was a job to wear them down some more, they should have batted the whole last hour, but batted the whole 15 overs.
Wouldn't the umpires in the end have said there's no chance of a result, we've got to go off?
I don't think they can, because it's about the two captains agreeing. It was a unique situation. Anyway, look, people abused us. I think someone called me a tosser. I think someone called you a bald CUNT, which is kind of like fair comment, isn't it? Really, and probably me as well. But
you're not as bald as me.
No, and also people say, I'm never going to listen to your podcast again. Fine. If you're so concerned about an opinion at the end of a cricket match, you're not going to listen to someone's podcast. Fine. That is free will. That is free speech. You can do that. It's your absolute choice, and I don't. It doesn't bother me in the slightest whether you listen to us again or not. So we all keep on saying what we think, and if you don't like it, well, enjoy the ride with us. Just shout at your phone or whatever you're listening to this on. But hopefully we can keep you entertained along the way and come up with some original constructive thoughts about the game. It's only that really, and I have to say I was quite surprised at the sort of general reaction. Actually,
I wasn't.
Well,
there's a lot of reactionaries out there who love a sledge, don't they?
But England were criticised for their sledge. The thing that really made me laugh, I found it absolutely laughable, was some of the reaction in Australia to this. England trying to sort of dictate the game, show their sort of moral superiority and all that sort of thing. Can you imagine? I thought about this. Can you imagine if an Australian team had been out in the field and a team had batted on like that for personal? Can you imagine what someone like Steve Waugh would have said, or Shane Warne, or probably just about anybody that's played for Australia in the past? So look, I think most teams would have taken a dim view of it, in the position that England were in. It wasn't a great. Look, India absolutely right to bat on. Sorry, if they wanted to bat on, fine, but don't be surprised if a team reacts in the way that England did.
Well, anyway, it added further spice to this series, and that spice was still evident this morning, actually, with some feisty opening bursts from both the England opening bowlers. I just felt England didn't bowl well to start with. Chris Woakes was okay. Gus Atkinson was good, but the follow-up bowling was poor. Obviously, there was that early wicket, and that created an interesting moment, actually, didn't it? Because Jaiswal was given not out from round the wicket to Gus Atkinson. England sort of ummed and ahed about reviewing, and I'm sure Ollie Pope, having lost or seen 14 reviews burnt in his previous entry as England captain, would have been very reticent about going for a 15th. And being negative, the commentary said, "Oh, there's an inside edge," and so on. Anyway, credit to Ollie Pope. He went for the review. There was some consternation from Stokes in the dressing room. Should he really have done it? When he won the review and Jaiswal was given LBW, there was a beautiful reaction from Pope. Absolutely, kind of relief, happiness. Yeah, thank God I've got that monkey off my back. And Stokes, he celebrated to Stokes in the dressing room, didn't he? And Stokes burst into a big beam and did some clapping and so on. So that was a nice moment. But generally, 72 for 2 at lunch, India, ball did a lot. It was seaming and swinging around, but England just didn't bowl full enough. They didn't bowl straight enough. They didn't bowl well enough. They should have had India, I would say, 60 for 5 at lunch. Yeah. And it was 70 for 2, and India played well. Gill obviously played solidly, but the others. But I thought England were well off the pace, and it was partly because a lot of those bowlers haven't had much bowling. Yeah. Although Atkinson, having not had much bowling, bowled well, but the rest were ordinary.
Yeah, and England, of course, got the bonus wicket of Shubman Gill as well, who ran himself out. I mean, that was an extraordinary and potentially key moment in this Test match. I mean, again, you said he played well. He looked solid. He
played beautifully, actually. I mean, he made the moving ball look as if it wasn't doing anything, and he put away the bad ball as well very well. I mean, one little word of sympathy for the bowlers. They were slipping on their front foot, and I remember that happening to me actually here at the Oval, in fact. And when your front foot slips at the crease, it's a horrible feeling, because what happens if you slip, you generally bowl short, you generally bowl much shorter, and then you're a bit tentative about when you run up after that, and you don't really sort of go full bore at the crease, you don't hit the crease as hard, you're a bit more apprehensive, and then you start bowling full, not getting your length right. You're not bowling over the top of your front leg, if you like, and you're not transferring your weight properly. And if you're starting to slip, you then have to move around the crease and find a bit more ground which is a bit more solid. And as soon as you start bowling short on a pitch like this, you get put away. I mean, Ricky Ponting was saying on commentary, I'm looking for a short ball on here. Driving is dangerous. England were not able to get enough balls full to kind of encourage the drive, which would have, I think, potentially produced wickets. And it was partly because they were under bowled in the season, and partly because they were slipping.
Yeah, and I don't know, possibly they're not quite the right attack for these sort of conditions as well. I mean, that can sometimes happen. Although Josh Chung, I mean, it's such a curious day. All those wides, but he actually bowled a couple of jaffers to get his wickets. So that must have been quite tricky for batters. Actually,
well, those sort of bowlers.
The worst.
I mean, Devon Malcolm was a bit like that sometimes, where he would bowl, one down the offside, one down the leg side. It sounds like that song about Mitchell Johnson. He bowls one to the left, one to the right. Mitchell Johnson, your bowling is, and they were doing that to Akash Deep or Mohammad Siraj actually at the last Test match. But they are quite hard bowlers to face, because you get one wide outside off, then one miles down the leg side, and you're thinking, well, where's the next one going to be? And suddenly it's a Jaffa that rips your glove off.
Because there were Jaffas out there to be bowled, weren't there? Because of the service. I tell you, I thought played really well, Karan Nair. I mean, this is a guy he's batted in 3 different positions in this series, in 4 Test matches actually, because he missed one. He's batted at 6, he's batted at 3, he's batted at 5. I mean, he's basically batting for his Test career here, wasn't he, in this Test match? If he'd gone cheaply in both innings in this game, you think 33, India probably would have moved on. But he's battled away there, and he's given Well, you think, there's a little bit inside me as well which thinks he's given India a bit of chance in this game for a couple of reasons. A, because as we've seen, it's green and it might stay like that, and there might be some dints in the pitch. Also, that factor that England are down to three bowlers now in this game, aren't they? I mean, it's not as if they've even got a frontline spinner to hold an end around, in the second innings around the three quicks. Jacob Bethel, he's going to have to do a bit of a job for them. It's tough for England, not just in the second innings, but potentially tomorrow morning as well. It's such a crucial morning tomorrow, because England are going to have to come out and bowl well and potentially use any conditions that are left. The new ball is a little bit away, so that's a key session in the morning, and then I think it will then be decided by how well England bat in that first innings. You feel to mitigate the loss of one main bowler, they've got to get a decent first innings lead.
They have found a way of getting Shubman Gill out. Bowl for run-outs! Yeah, as I was saying in an earlier Test match. How else do you get him out? Incredible, isn't it? I think he's got 740 runs in the series now, or something like that. And he looked so secure today. But it was a turning point, 3 o'clock, around about 3 o'clock he got called for a quick single. Gus Atkinson, who's the player of the day for England, so you were quite right to interview him. Got that run out as well. Pounced on the ball at wide mid-off, short extra cover, and threw the stumps down. Brilliant. Yeah,
when I asked him about it, he had a bit of a smile on his face, almost as if he enjoyed that more than the wickets he took. It's nice, isn't it, to affect a run out, especially a wicket like that, Shubman Gill. But I suppose he had 3 stumps to aim at, but you've still got to do it quickly, and you're not really expecting it to happen. Big moment when he saw those bails come off. But India, they don't go easily. They're a bit like Australia. I've said this about Australia in the past. They don't give you anything, and India have given England very little in this Test series. And I just wonder whether there's still a twist or two to come in this series. It doesn't feel like this game is going to be drawn like the old Trafford Test match, because it's not these, doesn't feel those sort of conditions. So it's going to be 3-1 or 2-2. It's
going to be my 3-1 or your 2-2
or my 2-2. Yeah, but this is a big series. It feels like a big series for England to win. They were expected to win it, weren't they? India coming here with a young side, young captain. England were. I thought they were expected to win, but there's a lot of talent in this Indian side. There's a lot of fight in this Indian side. I suppose one thing you say about them is that you look at the balance of their attack for this surface, whether they would have preferred to have 4 seamers rather than 3 seamers and 2 spinners. So there's that aspect there. They're going to have to bowl a bit more spin, aren't they? Because their seamers are going to get a bit worn down if they just keep operating them. And Siraj has bowled a lot of overs in the series. So a lot on Akash Deep and Prasidh Krishna when it's India's turn to bowl. Well, it's all set up for another, belting, fascinating day's cricket in this series, isn't it?
It is, and Betfair, looking at the odds, as I said earlier, percentage-wise, England 48% likely to win, India 31%, the draw 22%, and the odds, evens for England to win, 2-1 for India to win. One nice little aside bet here, 11-10 for Joe Root to hit 4 boundaries in the first innings. Well, he's hit 36 boundaries in the tournament so far, the series so far. So he's averaged 9 boundaries a test. So 4 in the first innings. Also, very quick square of the wicket here. If you get the ball on the back foot, square of the wicket, it goes to the boundary pretty quickly. I suppose the outfield has been slowish because of the rain, but I reckon it'll quicken up over the next couple of days. So it's not bad. 11-10 for Joe Root to hit 4 boundaries. I reckon that's one to go with. Look, we'll be back tomorrow anyway. It's getting late, so we need to file this podcast, and we'll be back in the morning. Don't forget, if you want to bet, you should be at least 18, and please gamble responsibly. And those odds are correct at the time that we're recording. It's a lovely evening here, actually, isn't it? But it's time to go. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks very much for listening. Do keep listening. I said I don't mind if you don't listen. No, do keep listening. We like to have you with us. We like your opinions, but don't shout at us. It's just cricket, everybody. It's just cricket. Speak to you tomorrow.